626 podcast.
Welcome.
And we have a special guest this week, all the way from the great state of California.
We do.
You may know him. You may love him. You may have seen him playing various characters on, cosplay and on TikTok and just an all-around content creator. He is an actor. He is a content creator. He's an all-around great human being, and he's one of our good friends. And that is the man, the myth, the legend, Jennings Brower.
What is going on, everybody? Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
I wish we had the
beautiful
button to do the claps again.
Yeah, I know.
I don't change my voice for podcasts. What do you mean?
Yeah.
I sound like this at all times.
All times. Have known Jennings. We've known you for a long time now, right? I mean, it's been since I was in college.
It's been before. I think it was before we were married.
No, we were married. We'd just gotten married.
Oh,
yeah, we had just moved in, just gotten married. We met
freshly married.
Yeah, we met Kendall, your sister. Then we met you. Jennings was dipping his toe into modeling a little.
Yes,
that's right.
If the photographers listening out there, you know the struggle. You are looking for models, and anytime someone volunteers to step in front of a camera and they are halfway good at it, you're like,
you
yes,
say yes.
Absolutely. So you dove right in, and you were great, and we had a good time, and that was kind of the start of it, and then it grew from there.
Yeah, we had the best time, and I remember Kendall introduced me to you guys, and I was so excited because I'd been doing the cheerleading thing in college and had met some photographers doing that, but it wasn't always consistent opportunities because most of the time they were sports photographers. But then meeting you guys, so knowing that I could come back home and shoot with you guys was always awesome. I always looked forward to that.
Now when we met, you had just started in modeling. You were in college. You said you were cheerleading, we'll come back to that. You were going for what, accounting or something at the time?
Yeah, I got my degree in finance.
Yeah, it was business finance, something like that. We had because I remember we talked briefly from business stuff. And the part of the reason we wanted you to have on is not because we wanted you to talk about your business degree.
Sure.
It was because you kind of embody a lot of what our listeners on the podcast which is, this entrepreneurial spirit, this desire to kind of blaze your own path. Because if I remember correctly, you just abandoned all of that and said,
straight did, my dude.
I'm going a different direction. So what kind of led you to that?
Great question. I always knew since I was a kid that I loved acting. And I say this because I had done some drama classes growing up. I had done some extracurriculars in school with the theater department type stuff. I'm pretty sure at one point I took a set design class or a prop building class. And I've always loved superheroes. So I just don't think growing up in the South, you think of acting or modeling as any kind of realistic besides maybe a fun hobby that you do.
Yeah. That
you're
so
involved
true.
in, while doing a 9 to 5. So it was never something that was talked about in my house. My parents knew that if I went to summer camps, I would choose the summer theater type option at the camps instead of the sports stuff.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think it was ever really talked about besides doing the school productions or doing the Nutcracker for my church for 13 years. Shout out to Miss Felicia, who was at Kendall's wedding. So going through college, there was just a moment that happened. I was wanting to pursue the acting and modeling for a while. I was dating a girl at the time who was going through a lot of her own stuff and also didn't see the reality of acting and modeling as a dream job being a potential.
Yeah.
So at the time I was prepared to fully stay in the finance stuff, find a job in that to keep our relationship and everything else. And when that came to an end, I just kind of took a step back and said, okay, I got to refine myself. What is it that I would really like to do? And I was like, I don't want to get to the end of my days and look back and say, man, I wish I had tried to make acting or modeling a reality or give it a full honest try. So I talked to my parents. They knew that I had done as much as I could in college to appease them with, doing financial internships, making sure that I had the experience. I had tried. And they said, cool, go for 2 years to New York, give it your best, see if it works out. If it works out, amazing. If not, then you've only been gone for 2 years. You can get right back into getting your licenses and everything for finance. and be right back into it. So that was the check that allowed me to go and pursue this. And thank God it ended up working out. I did a lot of catering for about 4 years to support the acting dreams, the acting classes, all of that.
I remember seeing that. You'd post about that all the time too.
Yeah. And then a friend of mine one day was like, hey, you love creating. You tend to have a lot of time between castings and auditions. Why not in your free time use your creative energy elsewhere? And somebody convinced me to get on TikTok. And that was kind of it.
Yeah.
That's all she wrote.
Yeah. And if you,
That's all she wrote.
all the big TikTokers will like be scrolling through and we'll just be like watching TikTokers. And then all of a sudden, boom, Jennings will pop up. And I'm like, hey, wait, I know that guy. That looks just like, that is Jennings.
Looks like Jennings. Oh, wait.
Oh, that's our buddy.
Yeah. And it's great seeing that because it's like, I knew you had a passion for it. Because I remember I hit you up one day because I'd randomly, one of the challenges I had done, which is like, I wanted to film more stuff. So we made up an action script, I think in like 5 seconds. And I was
So
like,
are you talking about the one downtown where you just like parkour
rooftop
through all of downtown?
Yep. And
the footage
Jennings
that I still have saved for my reel as rooftop fight scene.
Yes.
Okay.
It was, we committed, we had to like I had to like take a security guard's business card because he wanted to get into acting. So he would let us on the roof. So
That's
like
right.
we filmed on the roof. And Jennings, you committed because you were full on like actual sweat going, trying to get yourself ready. And it was super solid, especially for the first thing we just ever thrown together in 5 seconds. And I know it was a lot of fun. And I was like, and you had mentioned that like you always wanted to do that. And I was like, yeah. And like we all have dreams. And I think that's the big thing is like everybody has a dream that they're like, that's the one thing I've always wanted to do or I always want to do. And it's interesting in how like you're really shoehorned very late, like early in life, you're encouraged to be an imaginary, like imagine and always dream big, dream big, dream big.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in like middle school or high school, you're like, okay, but now you got to be realistic. You got to be more realistic. And I think you hit the nail on the head with like, acting and like being in movies and doing those things, especially when you're not in LA, when you're not in Atlanta, it's kind of like, yeah, that's a cool little fun dream to do on the side.
One little hobby you want there. Yeah.
And part of the thing, like what takes a hobby to the next level is like is that passion gap. So like a hobby can become a career, can become a profession. Obviously you have to get paid for that, but there's that little gap in between where it's driven completely by passion because you're not getting paid by it. You're doing what you're doing, which is like working nights as a waiter, grinding it out. And like, I think somewhere in that we get scared to have that passion to try to like go and make those steps. And I think you hit a really good point, which is I think the best part, which is like your family was encouraging and supportive of you, which you guys have a wonderful family. You all are very supportive of each other. And I know a lot of people like might not have that. Were there like any friends, like did you have any friends or key people that kind of helped you along with your family? Or is it kind of just like I had my family, they trusted me and that was all I needed?
Man, I will share with you guys that New York was not tough in the sense of feeling lonely, I guess, but we lived in an actor house, which is similar to what anybody who's been in the industry knows is like a model house where you have like 8 people in a home that should fit 4. And
you guys had like
not
a gym
that anybody
outside,
in the house were, say it again.
You guys had like a gym outside, right?
We did. We had weights that we collected from gyms around the area that were either shutting down or upgrading their stuff and just would sell it for cheap. And we had a long driveway that came back behind the house. That's where we had the tire and the cars and the weights. And so it's not that anybody in the house wasn't friendly or willing to help with self-tape auditions. All that was fine. But, there was a married couple. There was our buddy, Brett, who's a bodybuilder actor. And then we had me and my buddy, Craig from Delaware. And me and Craig would hang out all the time. And the married couple would hang out all the time. And Brett would often be off doing his own thing. So New York was very much the first 4 years of really the grind, where I was going to acting classes 3 times a week in the city. I was catering almost every single day to support myself financially and going to auditions and castings when they popped up. So when it comes to friends, like my friends from Jacksonville, from the Ponte Vedra area, growing up, they've always been supportive. They've joked about it, of course, as friends should, but they've always been extremely supportive of me pursuing my dreams. Whenever I've mentioned, guys, I'm sorry that I'm no longer on the East Coast. I'm sorry I'm no longer in the Southeast. They're like, dude, you're really doing what you want to be doing. And we love that for you. And, whenever you come home, it's never going to change. So yeah, I've totally had friends that have been around as long as not as long as my family, because, you're born into your family, but I've had friends that have been around since childhood that have been supportive. Some of my friends from New York didn't continue pursuing this. They definitely, I've seen people hit the brick wall of burnout or wanting just to say, okay, maybe I should go back. And I also have a lot of friends that hit that burnout point and hadn't gotten a college degree. Maybe they had dropped out of college saying, oh, I have an agency contract now, I'm set, and that's one of the biggest things that everybody has to learn, especially when diving into acting or modeling. If you haven't been in the industry that's similar, is agents get paid at max 20% of what you make.
Yeah. Sorry. Our dog decided to go off there.
That's okay. I barely heard something in the background.
Okay.
But the thing with contracts, you guys, if you're an aspiring model or actor, agents are going to be paid a max of 20% of what you get, meaning at the very least, you should be putting in 80% of the work, if not more. And I've always been a believer of, we are going to still put in 120% of the work. Agents are going to get what they get, because they've given us the castings, the auditions, the connections that they have. They just get us in the door. We have to do everything else. Yeah. And we also have to show up to make sure that they know that we're still around, especially if you're with a bigger agency that has a lot of talent, because you can very quickly become a number. And oftentimes that's not the agency's fault. It's not that they're purposefully not thinking of you, but if you're not making yourself known to them often, like I would go into the offices in New York to say, hey guys, can I bring anybody coffee? Can I do anything more for y'all? Does anybody want new headshots for me? Let me know what y'all would like me to do. I would do it to be more marketable for you. And I think that's how I built a really good repertoire with them, or really good rapport with them, and once I moved out to LA, that got a little bit tougher because I was no longer there where the office was, but we have new management and agency now, which is awesome. So
now, did you have a question?
Well, it's more along the lines of him shifting from New York to LA. Yeah, but if you have,
no, get with that.
Okay,
I was going to dive into more of like explaining acting, but explain that shift, because that is a cultural shift and a time zone shift.
So I remember you had been gone for a few years, and we were on like an engagement shoot or something, and it was during like around the pandemic time, and we were walking around the beach here in our hometown, and all of a sudden we hear Scott, Tori, and like we turn around and it's you, and you were on a bike. I think you were riding out with your friend or something, and we were talking to you and like chit chat and stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, are you home now? Like, are you? And you were like, yeah, because you came back because like pandemic had hit, New York completely shut down.
That's right.
So you came home. And so we were like, oh, dang, that's legit. Now we can like hang out if you wanted to do any like cool stuff. Like if we wanted, because like one thing is for sure, any crazy video idea that we ever have, we know that like we can call you and you'll be like, I'm freaking down. So we were like, oh, cool. Like we can, kind of flex our creative muscles. Jennings is back in town. We can hang out. We can, and then I think like a few months later, you were like, well,
I'm going.
I'm going to go to LA. And I was like, I'm so happy for you, but dang it. It was, I kind of feel like, was that to you a positive thing that did come out of the pandemic for you? Because like, I mean, did you ever?
It's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah. But like, did you ever feel like, you came home from New York? And you sounded, I mean, when I talked to you, you sounded kind of down, which, it was like, dang it, like, I don't know, but like, I don't know. I feel like if it weren't for that, you wouldn't be in LA.
That is such a good question. And you are 100% right. I had just booked this pretty big job about a year prior to the pandemic shutting everything down, or 6 months prior, maybe. And it was at this place called P-Volve, which is now, they have locations in New York and LA, Chicago. And it's almost like a mix of aerobics, micro movements, and Pilates in a sense. It's a lot about like the small movements that we don't often do to hit the smaller muscles that we don't often focus on when you go to the gym. The workouts were very structured towards like models or lengthening your muscles, but staying strong in your core as well. And I was hired as kind of like a celebrity trainer of sorts who would be one of the faces of the online trainers. So when you guys watch live streams or watch pre-recorded programs, and you could every now and then come take one of like the celebrity trainers in classes. So we were going through like the 6 months of the training for this. This was looking to be something that was really going to be my new great source of income instead of the catering. And this actually had potential for me to move to LA with the company. It had been talked about. It had not been set in concrete yet because they needed me to be working for like 6 months once we were done with the training stuff in New York to see if I'd be a good fit over in LA. Because once I started doing acting, LA was always the end goal. But everyone said, hey, if you're just starting, go to New York, get your theater training done first, and then take that intense training over to LA for TV film. And so this was the first big job. And then it was when I was in Maine with my dad, helping to open up the cottage that we go to every single year. My family and I, then I got the phone call saying, hey, with the pandemic stuff, we thought we were going to be able to make it work with the online classes, but we actually have to sadly let go of you and the other two trainers that we've hired as celebrity trainers. We're so sorry. We know we just did all this training. You'll still get paid for the training, but we just can't afford it like we thought we could.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the energy I kind of came home with to Florida, was knowing, okay, pandemic's hit. I've lost this job. As of right now, I'm just waiting in Florida until stuff in New York opens back up, and then I'll go back. So I was home for 3 months, staying at my parents' house before my dad was like, hey, if you're going to be here for longer, why not just at least go get your car? And I was like, Dad, if I go get my car, I'm getting all my stuff. I'm
over. Yeah.
I'm done. I'm not going back to New York. And that was not I'm done. I'm not going to keep acting and modeling or doing social media. Cause luckily I was one of the few that had started social media brand new. I saw it like 6 months or a year, if not a little bit more, before the pandemic started.
Yeah, you were on the trend already.
Yeah.
One of the OGs.
So I was very lucky with that. But moving to Florida, that was okay, guys, if I'm to get my car, my stuff, I'm getting all my stuff. I'll be here. I'll get an apartment here for a while. I will really work hard with the social media stuff. But then my end goal is to go from Florida to LA. So that was ultimately the goal when I knew I was coming back to Florida for a while, was to push that to LA.
It was a little stepping stone.
Yeah. And so I focused heavily on Twitch streaming when I was back in Florida. I made TikTok videos every day. Convinced my buddy Jesse the Snickle to move from Michigan down to Florida to live with me for a year. Our buddy Lonnie, who's now my roommate here in LA, he lived 10 minutes away with his parents, so he was over all the time. We were creating like crazy, hanging out with other Florida creators. And yeah, there just came a point where one of my buddies, John, who's also known as Beer Bong John, or now being just John on social media, he called me. He goes, hey, I know you've been planning on moving to LA. I actually am ready to do that too. I'm about to move out of Washington because the seasonal depression is not good here. I'm like, okay, heard. And he's like, I'm gonna go start looking for houses. Do you want to go with me? And I was like, so I had not yet had a plan to go. But as soon as he called me, that I was like, yes, you guys know this is my dream. I'm gonna go out and check it out. We went, checked it out, applied to some places. And I actually ended up leaving Florida a little bit early.
Yeah.
I talked to my roommate, Jesse. I talked to Lonnie. I was like, look, I love you guys. I'm going to keep paying the rent here, but I'm going to get over to LA and start doing that moving process. So there was a part of me, and shout out to Jesse the Snickle, because he's still one of my dear best friends. But I moved out of our place like a month and a half, 2 months before our lease was ending. And so he was kind of hanging there, having friends over, having Lonnie over while I was really starting out in LA. But yeah, LA was the end goal. And that was a great thing, because I know the pandemic was very hard for a lot of people. I think we all definitely had our ups and downs and our bumps. But being able to move out to LA at a time where not a lot of people were moving to LA, I think definitely kind of locked me into a good rent rate at this place that was brand new. And yeah, I definitely had a lot of good that came from it for sure.
Yeah, I know, because you were just in Australia filming something. and then you've been on a couple other things. I know you're not allowed to talk about everything yet. But
we can talk about Australia now that we have articles out.
Yeah, well, go ahead and talk about it. Tell us what you've been working on.
Yeah, because I don't even know. All I know, last time I talked to you, you were like, "Oh my gosh, I got to tell you about it," but like I didn't get any.
And you guys were working.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
We were
one of the cool things you
working
guys,
your sister's wedding.
Really quick, you guys, shout out to both Scott and Tori because they worked my brother's wedding. They worked my sister's wedding. And I'm positive one day when I meet somebody special and we go the distance, they'll be the first people I reach out to.
We'll be there.
We were actually just talking about that yesterday because we were
We
chatting
better get the
about,
trifecta.
I'm telling you what, like all the Brower kids.
That's what I'm saying. It was super cool. And they do a great job, you guys. So if anyone listening to this podcast ever needs wedding photographers, even if it's a destination beautiful wedding, fly them out.
We got a shout out from Jennings.
Yeah, all the destination weddings.
Absolutely.
You guys have my sign off.
Even Paris. Here, that's the thing, Jennings. Here's the thing. You blow up and you get married and we go to Paris.
Listen, all I'm saying is I love Kendall and Darby so much. I love my parents so much. They want to do local and all of that. Granted, when it comes to our Christmas trips, mom and dad like to go elsewhere. But
I was about to say,
I will be having a smaller destination wedding with like close friends and family. And if anybody else wants to watch the live stream, they can.
Exactly. There you go. You guys can watch it.
Honestly,
on Twitch. Subscribe to your Twitch.
It's less stress and it's less like, I mean, yeah, you have to organize, like depending on where you go and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, when you plan it out far enough, like, wow, it's great.
Yeah.
And it's stress free and it's so intimate and it's just great. But sorry, getting off track. But
no, you're good.
Tell us about Australia.
Yeah. So I was just in Australia for a month and a half. I oftentimes lose track of the date that I got somewhere. So for example, moving to LA, I think it was February 2021. I could be so wrong. Could have been January. Could have been
somewhere
May.
in that range. Yeah.
Don't quite remember. Same with Australia. I think I went there November 16th or 20th or something like that. No, I left November 19th.
There he is.
And I arrived on November 21st because of the time change. 13-hour flight.
You lost that day. You'll never get it back.
Whole day is gone. We filmed a movie for a month called Bring Him to Me. It's by Luke Spark, who's a awesome Australian director. He has an amazing crew of people around him. I made friends with so many of the production team. We were there. We had a lot of really great actors along with us. Jamie Costa, one of my good buddies here from LA. We became great buddies there. Just got lucky to find out that he's also LA based.
That's fun. I love that.
Zach Garrett, who is a Australian actor, but lives here with his fiance in LA. So got two new acting buddies to hang out with. And then we had some really big actors like Barry Pepper, who's the lead, and he was in Green Mile. He was in Saving Private Ryan, to name a couple. And he's been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah.
We have Rachel Griffiths, who's a great Australian actress. And then we had Sam Neill, who's very well known from Peaky Blinders, I think, as well as Jurassic Park. So that's cool. We've got some really great actors in there.
That
filmed for a month.
So cool.
Yeah. Filmed for a month. It was mostly overnight shoots because it's a mob thriller. And my character is the right-hand man of the main bad lady, who is played by Rachel Griffiths.
So he plays a villain.
I do play a villain, but the good news about my villain is he wasn't one of those serious, like angry all the time villains. He's one of those villains who's super cocky. And so he definitely has like I'm very lucky. I got to play a lot of the Lucifer character that I've done for a while.
Okay, there you go.
Do this character and just like a lot of smirks, a lot of looking down at you, but like
eyebrow raises,
smiling, kind of like a mean guy, for a lack of better non-vanilla terms not wanting to be used. So yeah, it was great. It was really fun. A lot of night shoots. We'd be picked up like 3:30 p.m. and would not get back to the hotel till 5 a.m. And what was cool, it was that it's summer right now in Australia.
Yes.
So the sun would rise at 4:15, 4:30 in the morning, and it wouldn't set till like 8:30, 9 p.m.
Yeah.
So sun would already be like up by the time we would get back to the hotel most times, and then have to close our blinds and sleep for a couple hours. Very nocturnal while we were shooting, which is awesome.
Man.
Yeah. And the movie comes out this year.
That is a super cool experience. Well, you have 2 films coming out this year because that'll be ours that we shot as well over the pandemic that has been
thank
forever.
God. It's about damn time.
It's about freaking time.
You are allowed to say that because it has taken an incredibly long time for.
Listen,
you get too busy.
We know that you guys have been super busy and there's been a lot of stuff going on. It was very funny. Admittedly, I'm so terrible with names. But the co-star, we have DM'd Leia. Thank you. We've DM'd and we're like, you heard anything? Nope. You? Nope. All right. I'll send a little text and check in.
It is officially coming. It is. We have stuff done with it. Thank God. Just a lot going on. Obviously, when I lost my mom, that put everything kind of on delay.
Absolutely.
And I hate doing that because like you actors, you guys put your heart and soul into that too. So then you guys kind of get stuck waiting in a tough position. I hate doing that, but I appreciated you too. You guys did a phenomenal job.
Oh my gosh. I think that was the first time I had ever actually seen because I know the two of you listening to y'all chit chatting, the two of you were like, y'all had taken the same acting course or something like that. And y'all were like going, and you were like, no way, you took that. No way, I took that. Oh my God. So you guys, that was the first time I'd ever actually seen like an acting method being used, because there was a lot of like heavy emotion in that film and a lot of intense emotion in that film. And it's funny because it's not funny, but the two of you are very like, yeah, bubbly people, like super welcoming. And, and then for that to get into that mode was just like super intense. And I was like, dang, that's what so that's how,
that's what they do.
Got it. It was really cool.
You both pulled so much emotion.
You sure did.
In an incredibly short amount of time, which I thought was super impressive. You bared with a very slow production because it was a very small film. But you guys did a phenomenal job. It was really, and then going back through those emotional moments, I was like, Lord, you guys are good. You guys did such a good job.
You will feel
that
things.
It took as long as it has, but excited for that to be shown.
It's coming out. It'll be okay.
Shifting gears, I wanted to kind of dive back into something because you talked a little bit about coming back from quarantine, being stuck here during COVID, and you saw some of your other friends kind of hit that burnout point.
Yeah.
What kind of advice can you give, or what kind of made you go from, a lot of people would have just given up. And I know I've worked with a lot of actors, and there's a lot of just even in photography, there's the same thing where there's just a burnout. Once you hit that first wall, there are a huge group of people that just fall off the bus.
Yep.
What made you different? Why did you not quit? And why did you not go, I have a degree, I can just go back and make money?
Yes, that is awesome, Scott. It's a big thing. And there's a lot of different answers as to why I was able to keep moving forward with my head held high. Not to sound cliche in any way, shape, or form, but the number one biggest thing, whether it's me wanting to take care of my fitness or my mental health or not give up on my dreams, sincerely, guys, is my faith. And that is tied in a big way to the way my parents brought me up, the way people that were around me and my family growing up, uplifted me and taught me about my faith. That it was me, not just a confirmation, which I know different churches have different age ranges, but me as an adult choosing beyond my family and what any of my peers have said, me choosing to continue to have faith and practice my faith. Yes, of course, is there the tie in there that I love superheroes and comics since I was a little kid, and a superhero would never give up no matter how hard it got. But my faith was a big one, knowing that, hey, if this is not meant to be the path that I'm on, God would show me signs, even if they were enough small signs that it eventually built up. But I'm also not going to jump to conclusions that hard times mean that's a sign to stop, especially if it's not coming from the social media or the acting or the modeling. If it's just hard times from a pandemic, that's affecting everybody, not just me, so that shouldn't be a reason why I should stop. Granted, this is one thing I always say, if somebody can give 5 minutes to a hobby or something that they love every day, a passion of theirs, even if they don't want to make it a full-time career, do that, because that's so important. If you want to make it a career, still give it that 5 minutes, even if you have to work a 9 to 5 or your even longer hour job to make ends meet, to support your family, to support your loved ones, to support yourself. Still do what you have to do, but still give time every day if you can to what you love: reading, writing, watching TV shows, movies, art, anything. Because at the end of the day, you guys, is learning that just giving 5 minutes a day is enough. For me, that was TikTok. there was some videos that did really well, and I took no more than 5 minutes to film, edit, and post. Granted, TikTok's kind of made in that way to be potentially, explosive and do well. So faith was a big one. Never giving up, trusting that if God didn't want me to do it, he'd let me know. And this is, by the way, to anybody who believes in the universe, believes no matter what your faith background is, if you believe that, like, hey, signs will point you in the right direction, as long as you're moving in that direction, things seem to be going smooth, and there are bumps and ups and downs, but you seem to be handling it well, keep going. I think what happened though, you guys, is when this pandemic happened, it was almost, I like to refer it to like the 2008
the crisis.
Depression that we went through. Yeah. Because a lot of people, right, if they're invested, all of a sudden this thing happens, the bubble pops, they're racing the bank to get their money out before, market totally crashes, whatever. Financial advisors like, no, stay in it. You got this. Like, it's going to come back up. This is not the end of the world. It's not just everything's going to die out, but people rush to get out. So I think with that level of reality, right, if you're an actor, a content creator, content creation was fine. We can do it all from home. But I think in a creative industry, it's very difficult to say, well, if I can't go to studios to shoot, if I can't go meet with photographers to shoot, if I can't do X, Y, Z, I don't have the stuff at home to do it myself, I have to get an online job or something to support myself, which again, totally cool, but don't give up on your dreams. I also think it was helpful to me having that degree in something else. Now, if someone's going to school for acting, for music, for modeling, for whatever, still do that, 100% do that. But I do think, you guys, I think it's important to have a backup plan, which very much like when we do our acting homework or study a script, once you've done all that work, put on the back burner. Don't consciously think about it. Don't consciously worry about it. Will Smith said something that I like a lot. If you have a plan B, plan A will never work. And I take that in a way of, if you were constantly thinking of, well, if plan A doesn't work, I've got plan B. I already have a structure of how it's going to work out. It's like, it's okay to have that. But once you have that plan set, put it away. Focus everything you have on plan A if you can. If you're doing the plan B, which is if you have the 9 to 5, which is your plan B, just to support yourself, 100% totally cool. That can totally be part of your structure. You just got to find the balance, find yourself the time to be passionate. But ultimately, you guys, I think the reason people would give up is maybe because of that fear. Same kind of fear that happened in like 2008, which is are things going to get better? How long are we going to be in this pandemic? How long will I be able to support myself if I can't make money from what I usually do? And I don't make money from my passion, my dreams, my hobbies. So I can't really focus a lot of time on that, So, and I think a lot of my friends that did give up, especially from New York, were the ones that either went straight from high school to having an agency and saying, yep, they're going to do all the work for me. I'm going to get jobs easy.
Which has got to be a shell shock for sure.
Yeah. And the people that also dropped out of college once they got an agency and said, oh, I don't need my degree anymore. I'm covered with work.
Yeah.
One of my buddies went and ended up getting his real estate license, and I think he does fine now, but he's definitely left like acting and modeling behind. And that is tough. And it is tough, but I think there's a big level, you guys, of how much life experience somebody has leading up to a big challenge like that happening, to know how to handle those times, to be able to move forward with grace, with your head held high. And it's almost like holding on no matter how hard it gets, to know that you're walking uphill, but at some point you're going to get to the top and you'll have a break. You'll have that release. So I think sometimes it's hard to stick through that. And by the way, you guys, there's no judgment or negativity put towards those who do have to find that safe spot. We all want comfort. We're beings of habit who like to have a roof over our heads and security. That's why I say, if you have a 9 to 5, you have to work crazy hours to make ends meet, still do that, but also allocate some time to yourself and what you love doing, because the better and better you get at those things, the more and more likely it is that you can make it into something bigger.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of things that I think I were really good points that like I wanted to consider. Like, one of the things, like when you use that analogy, the financial crash in 2008, I thought that was a really good one. One, because you have a finance background, way to bring that back in.
Look at him using that degree.
But
that's right.
I thought you brought up a good point, because I used to hear this saying a lot growing up, which was like, in a battle between the bears and the bulls, it's the turtles that win. And I always thought it was a dumb thing.
I have never heard that saying.
Yeah, it was it's in a battle of the bulls and bears, the turtles win. And the reason they say that is because it's like if you are constantly looking in the 5-year window, the 6-year window, the 3-year window, the 1-year window, you're never going to be right. The bears win, the bulls win. It's always a disaster. But whenever you pull back and you look at the 15, 20, 30, 40-year window, it's the person that just stayed slow and steady through the whole thing that wins that race, that they're just constantly growing. And that's the reality is I think we do. I know I myself get caught up in like, okay, I'm 30, my career should have been here and I'm upset that it's not here. Yep. And that's that bull mentality of like, I need to keep moving. And then when you start hitting those walls, the bears come in and now you're going, oh, well, I'm not good at this. Those are all signs. They must mean I'm not good. I need to quit. So I need to go find another job. I need to do all these things. And in reality, maybe we need to be more of the turtle and just be comfortable at the pace we're going, because it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And it's okay. We just need to keep slowly moving forward, chucking away at things and kind of working forward. And I think that's a really good way to look at it is like, if you're passionate about something like this, the time should not be the indication of something. Like, don't put that on it. Focus on like, okay, I want to do a little bit of it. I know we talked about in an episode of consistency, which was like part of consistency is just showing up that first time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, just taking one step at a time, you can build the discipline from there. And I think you've really shown in this like whole thing is like how passionate you are for what you're doing, willing to walk away from stuff, go this direction, kind of face adversity, push through one of the hardest times to be an actor when literally everything shut down.
Especially like being in the just starting out phase.
Yeah.
You know, like that's scary.
You know, and you were able to push through that. And I think that's a really fascinating thing. And I kind of always go back to, I don't know if you guys have ever seen, I don't remember the name of the movie now. It's like, I think Something in the Air or something like that. It's the one with George Clooney and Anna Kendrick. And they like, he goes around, he gets hired by companies to fire people.
Copy.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. So
that's
like
tough.
They have that line. It went viral on Instagram and TikTok for a little bit where he's talking to, oh man, he's talking to the dude from Invincible and
It's okay. Me and names are also.
Yeah. J.K. Simmons.
Yes.
J.K. Simmons. He's talking to J.K. Simmons and he's like, how much did they pay you to give up on your dream? And he's basically saying like J.K. Simmons' character wanted to be a chef, I think. And he realized that he wasn't going to make money doing that. So he took a job.
Up in the air.
Up in the air. That's what it's called.
Sorry, it was going to bug me.
He took a job. He took a job and like, he was like, yeah, they paid me like $40,000. That's when I first quit my dreams. And it's like, that's what we end up facing is we give up on those dreams. And I think you have a good point there where it's like, it's okay to have that backup plan, to have that plan to fall back to, but giving up on it, giving up on your passions just for the money, just for those things, like just for an easier life.
Right.
Yes, you may have all the great stuff, but like you gave up on your passion. You gave up on the thing you dreamed about. You gave up on the thing you loved.
I also think it's that mentality, which I don't think is super duper healthy. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But of that, it's almost that thought of like, if you're on your deathbed and you look back and you say, okay, in my life, this is where I think people also end up saying like money is not everything. Cause I look back and it's not the things that I bought that I look back. I'm like, yes, I had a great life. It's oftentimes who did I go on adventures with? Who did I have in my circle? Who do I have the most memories with? What were we doing? Where were we? And what was I doing with my life? And for me, looking back and I'm so grateful. My dad's worked in finance since he graduated college, whether it was banking or finance. We've always had a very comfortable life. I'm very grateful for that. I learned so much from that. But for me, my passion since I was a kid was always just something acting, something performing. And while I could make connections as to like how working in finance could help people, it was almost weird because when I did the financial internships, they were marked as financial internships. It was with Northwestern Mutual and Prudential. Both ended up being insurance focused, meaning they're having me sell life insurance to college kids. And I saw this is just something I'm sharing. Those who are working at these companies, I'm not talking about y'all directly. However, there was a lot of brainwashing going on in these places.
Yeah.
And they talk about like their annual getaways and how exciting it was that Mark got engaged at the annual getaway because 2 years prior, like Steve had gotten engaged at the annual getaway. And they're so excited about it. And, you know, there's truth to that within, there's truth to that, especially within jobs where you are being paid on commission. Right.
Yeah.
And you have to grind. You have to like make a name for yourself. You are going to make as much as you put into it. And I think I learned a lot of that for my acting and modeling stuff. It's like, I will not rely solely on my agencies to make me money. Now with social media, I can build my own brand. I can make as much money as I would like to. If I stay consistent, find new ways to grow, find new ways to be relatable with my videos, I'll grow a bigger audience, X, Y, Z. So while acting is still my main childhood dream, I would love to be doing it like Dwayne Johnson or Kevin Hart, where they're acting most of the times or working on their other projects or companies, but they do social media every day just for fun. Yeah. And I would love to be in that space.
I think that sounds like betting on yourself.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You're betting on yourself. Like you have a chance to fail at anything you do, but there's a difference when you're failing, when you're betting on yourself, like taking that dice roll on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to risk it for myself because look, if you're going to work for someone, might as well try at least yourself. And not everyone's wired that way. And that's totally okay. The economy doesn't work if everyone tries to do that. But at the same time, there are groups of people who I think, especially after the pandemic, felt that drive, felt that urgency, felt that like, I want to try this for myself. I want to try something. And I think that's really cool. One thing I want to hit on before we start wrapping up was like, you're on social media. You also have been on romantic book covers. I've seen you in Walmart a couple times.
He sure has.
You know,
weren't you on an infomercial too?
I sure was. Two or three of them.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
You know, and I like that has obviously brought like the internet is not known for being the nicest place on the world.
Correct.
Have you faced criticism and like kind of and any type of like backlash, hatred, like that?
Good question.
Like, how do you overcome that? Like, how do you not let that affect you?
Yeah. So I have faced personal backlash. There's some minor stuff, whether it's like someone's like, you don't actually look like Tom Ellis, the actor from Lucifer. Yeah. But one thing that I talk about openly now is during the pandemic, when, especially in Florida, you know, was really one of those states that like kept having spring break, kept having get-togethers, kept having parties, kept having bars be open, XYZ. And there were a lot of anti-maskers in Florida. This is not generalizing that everybody in Florida was an anti-masker, because I was not one of them.
In there.
Right. But there was the time that I got back from a Christmas trip with family, and my brother just got engaged. It was super exciting. But my friends and I had been planning a cosplay meetup in Orlando, I think it was. And we had planned it, and we'd been posting our Instagram stories, our Snapchat stories, sharing like the way that we were going to try to be safe about it, making sure everybody was tested. We were pretty much sharing that we were treating it like a SAG set, where everyone was going to get tested every day. People would be tested. We would not like go to big open public places unless it was absolutely necessary, or we were doing it safely, whatever. My mistake that I made, and then I ended up making an apology video for, because we were getting some crazy backlash and hate, which we learned very quickly that every single division of content creation, whether it's cosplay, acting, anything else, there's toxic groups. And we definitely got attacked by a lot of the toxic groups out there. But one thing, the mistake that I made was that I made the choice, FOMO over CDC guidelines. And instead of waiting the full 14 days or 2 weeks, whatever it was, that you had to wait after international travel before going anywhere to see anybody, I waited about 7-8 days before I ended up going to this meetup and saying, you know what, my negative test is enough. I'm going to go do this thing. And people were like, didn't you just get back from a different country? You know, you guys are doing this meetup. You guys are going to City Walk in Disney. You guys are being so unsafe. And a lot of the toxic cosplay people online use their following to like, hey, go attack this group of people. A lot of it, we believe, could have been started because, and these were at the time friends of ours that had been invited to previous meetups and had a great time at previous meetups and good experiences at previous meetups. But when I tell you guys, like, a wave of hate came all of our way. And there was some of the group that ended up not making an apology video because they're like, no, dude, like, we put out how we were going to be safe the entire time, how we were treating the meetup the entire time. And no matter whether you made an apology video or not, everybody made it through fine. Like, everybody's fine. But there was a few weeks of like bad stuff. And eventually after 2 or 3 weeks, I ended up making a video because I was tired of being afraid of posting and being myself and being creative, especially during the pandemic, being at home when content creation was all I had. The only thing I felt safe doing was Twitch streaming because I had my really loyal audience there. But I had my two roommates going through my DMs, clearing out hate messages, clearing out whatever threats were in there. Going through, I didn't have them going through my comment section, but that was definitely something where I eventually made an apology video. Yes, in part, it was to appease those who were so upset, who needed an apology, even if there wasn't really a reason and all be all that they were looking for, except for forcing apologies. But my apology ultimately was me saying, look, I did go earlier than what the CDC guidelines required. That was me. I let the FOMO take over. I made that mistake, and that's what I apologize for. But yeah, that was probably about a 3-week, 1 month period of really bad mental health. Super happy I had my two roommates around. I had my family, 10 minutes away. And I had those two guys who could really look out for me because neither of them had come to this meetup. And so they were able to just watch over, monitor, and make sure that we got through it okay. But that was definitely the biggest backlash I got. And that was, it was a mistake I made because at the time, the CDC guidelines were not the 5 days like it is now. It was still the 2 weeks. And that was on me. So, took accountability for it, suffered the consequences, but obviously we are in a much better place now, and we are making good human decisions.
I think that's a really interesting way to take on like the adversity and like a challenge like that, is like owning up to your part of it and then, kind of moving forward. I think
washing your hands and going.
You have to do that in business. I mean, we've had that before where we've made mistakes in business and we've had to own up and like, look, hey,
sorry.
This is our mistake. The rest is on, like, we're not going to tell, the rest is on you at that point, but we'll apologize for where we messed up and kind of go from there.
But also don't really understand why people feel the need to be super disgustingly ugly to people. Like
it's keyboard warriors.
Absolutely.
Honestly,
it's tough behind keys.
There's part of the content creation that is 100%, create what your audience wants to see, for sure. Absolutely. You want to follow, I specifically don't like to try to have a niche. I like to create what I feel like creating that day and push more and more of the personality, which is why I do a little bit less and less cosplay. I have a full closet of cosplay right here. I will still do cosplays forever, but I try to do a lot more of the personality type stuff. But yeah, there's also the understanding that you got to create and not worry about what the comments say. So while I'm right now getting back into responding to comments, reading comments, and trying to engage with them, I also have told many friends of like, hey, if you're the kind of person that keeps calling me or texting me and saying, sorry, I'm just down because I saw another hate comment, I'm like, yo, stop looking. Because here's the thing, if unless you're going in there and you know mentally, whether it's good or bad, I'm just going to read the comments, see what people are saying, and then, whatever. A lot of the times, if you're going to read your comments or going to engage and you're going in with that little like puppy dog hopefulness, more than likely, you're not going to look into the comments to look for the positive stuff, because it's the one thing that you're looking for that's going to be negative. And it's like self-sabotage. Like there's likely going to be something in there that you might not like. So don't go looking for it. And so I think there's that level of voluntary ignorance is bliss that I think is good for mental health. It's like, hey, if you don't want to go into hateful spaces, don't go looking for it.
Don't read the comment section.
And a lot of people will say, well, I didn't mean to go looking for it. I'm like, yes, but that's the thing, isn't it? Is like, you want to defend yourself so quickly when in reality, some people have that toxic trait of looking for that self-sabotaging comment, looking for that thing that they know is going to upset them.
Yeah.
It's like waking up in the morning and scrolling on my phone on social media and knowing there's nothing productive that's going to come from it, when I should be just getting up, going downstairs to get the coffee brew and get dressed and get the day started,
Yeah. And I feel like there will always be at least this. If I were a content creator and like had a big following, or whether it was on YouTube, TikTok, whatever, knowing me and my personality, looking at the comments would be a no-go for me, just because, but I would live by the rule of there's always going to be a negative comment. Yeah. Always. It doesn't matter whether you made a video or content of you helping the homeless and feeding puppies. Like there's always going to be somebody, unfortunately, because some people just love being miserable about stuff, and that's fine for them. But there's always going to be a negative comment. So just like knowing that
Yeah.
and then just being like, I'm good.
Well, you know, and that's one thing that I respect about, because that was one of the biggest things was people, when that all happened with that meetup, were very quick that if anybody started to put on word filters on comments so that people couldn't leave negative comments, they'd be automatically deleted, or just turn off comment sections entirely, or were banning people who were saying mean comments. People would come back and say, but now you're blocking our freedom of speech. You're blocking the comment section's opportunity to engage and say what we want to share. Like, you're making this content for social media. Let us be social and have these conversations. Because a lot of them were bringing up points of like, hey, some of our states are in super lockdown. If somebody was in Australia, they were on mega lockdown. Like, they were not allowed to legally leave their homes. Yet here we were in Florida, where it's a little bit more open state where we could go. And you know, it wasn't enough for us to share, hey, we're following the Florida guidelines.
Yeah, it's also not your fault that the guidelines were
100%. But it was one of those things where it's like, you know, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and being able to say, hey, I totally respect that. I see where you're coming from. And we knew that we weren't going to make everybody happy, which is why when it just magnified and people, and there are drama pages that specifically like seeked it out and got their audience to come after us, whatever. So it's that respect level of, I understand that y'all are going through a hard time and y'all don't have these opportunities. Mm-hmm. We can tell you as much as possible how we're trying to do this safely and treat it like an acting set. It's not going to matter, because if you guys are still stuck in your state at home, likely facing some sort of seasonal depression or just depression from being inside all day, I can respect that is a very difficult thing to do and see somebody else doing it and not have that same opportunity. So yes, are there always going to be people that look for something to be upset about? Sure. And there's going to be a lot of times where their outside environment is also going to add to that, you know, that they don't necessarily have control over. So it's a mix of the keyboard warriors, the mix of those who are making good points, and then just angry people. So
yeah. And I kind of get that.
No, I respect that outlook. I didn't think about it that way. So that's a really good point.
I also look at it like, when you have that hatred, you have those like doubters or naysayers or any of those things. I always go back to like when we were in Europe, we were in Germany, we were like, or Austria, we were looking at, I think we'd walked into like an old church that was like established. And I think, what did it say? Like 800 or something on the establishment time, which is always crazy when you see like a 3-digit number in the established.
Yep.
But like, we were walking, it's gorgeous, you know, stained glass, just beautiful light coming in. And I remember it was somebody in our group, I think they were like the Georgia group that come with us, and they were just kind of like, I don't get it. It's just a bunch of like light. I'm like, because everybody's taking pictures of this beautiful light and glass coming through. And I'm like, no matter the time, like nobody, like people are going to hate on the Sistine Chapel. Like there's somebody that's just going to look at it and be like, I'm not impressed by it. 9 times out of 10, though, the people that are looking at something and going, I'm not impressed by that, or you didn't do a good job, are not people who are, they're not painters, they're not architects, they're not photographers, they're not content creators, they're not people doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. They're people from the outside looking in and going, I think I could have done that better. I could have done it better. But they're also the people that are sitting on the sidelines the entire time going, it's the classic, like, I shared this with a group of people today where it's like
watching football.
It's exactly what it's football. I'm sitting on my couch eating my, food and
having a bird's eye view of the entire field.
And I'm going, oh, you bum.
And
couldn't catch
telling
that.
Trevor Lawrence that you could throw it better.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't think I could throw a football 10 yards anymore. And I'm like, my arm would fall off. And I'm over here watching these guys. I'm like, you bum, why didn't you throw that? I could have made that pass.
That's a solid point.
And that's how we are now. But now the internet has magnified it, because now we can really stay anonymous and you can that
100%.
You're actually just as good as those people. But shifting gears, because I want to ask you this before we jump to some final questions here.
Sure.
What advice would you give entrepreneurs and also little Jennings? Like,
little baby Jennings.
What advice are you going to give?
Yeah. Man, it's so difficult. Not only have superhero movies done it, but other movies have done it where it's like, if you go back in time and had the chance to say something, would you? Or would you be afraid of that causing some kind of butterfly effect, changing everything in the future, X, Y, Z? So if I were to give advice to someone that I saw and I was like, you remind me of me, then I would say, because I don't think never give up is specific enough. Because it's like, cool, I've heard that from 1,000 different songs, never give up. But I think it's what makes you happy and go for it. Specifically, to give an example, one of my little cousins recently was like, hey, I love seeing that you do content creation. I actually really like video games, but they don't just love playing video games. They like creating video games and the coding that goes into that and that creative side of like, not just animation for TV and film, but animation for video games. I'm like, you are freaking like 7, I'm like, dive in, do the research, find out who's doing it right now, find out who's good at it right now, study like how they had their come up, study those coding programs. If you're 7, 8, and you're telling me that you're excited about how video games are made, dive in,
run after it.
Yeah, I would have like, for me as a kid who liked acting and loved superheroes, my mom did take me to this one talent scout thing that was apparently like Disney kind of traveling around to different areas in Florida to see if there's, new child actors that could be good or kids that had potential. And at the time I was still a little overweight, Jennings, who had braces and glasses all at the same time and didn't know what athletics was. And apparently I did okay during the commercial read and the personality tests, but their response to me was, hey, we'd like to take you, but call us when you get your braces off. And I assume we lost their contact card and all that stuff. Plus, this was at the time when I thought I was only going to have my braces for a year. I ended up having them for 3.5 years. Ooh. So, the advice I'd give to entrepreneurs, to little kids is learn as much as you can from all your experiences. Never give up on what you love. Always make that your forefront and your focus. And then for the last thing I'd give for little kids is whether it's superheroes or a knight in shining armor or a firefighter or a policeman or whatever it is at the time they're really excited about or want to be like when they grow up, like, make sure you keep the people around you that don't just remind you of those heroes, but also help make you feel like one. Because I think as a kid, it's so easy to want to be in the cool group or the popular group. And it's not that those kids can't grow up to mature, but I just don't think those are often the best spaces. Maybe nowadays, this generation is going to get better and better and better with teachers being more active in sharing information and being more open in conversation. But then for entrepreneurs or people that are in the creative spaces, the best thing I would suggest, and this is a good like lacrosse metaphor. Just because you make one mistake in one part of the field in one part of a play does not mean that you can't catch back up to the person that you're either defending. Or just because you drop the ball does not mean you can't get that ground ball and keep going and still make a great play. If you can stay quick on your feet in business, in the creative space that you're in, and whatever it is that you're pursuing, whatever it is that you're juggling, if you can stay quick on your feet and not be perfect, but not be afraid to make mistakes and continue to give it your all, because as long as you're giving it your all, you can drop the ball, you can fumble the ball, you can miss that tackle, you can miss that field goal. But that doesn't mean that you don't have a million other chances to do great and learn from that experience. So the biggest thing that I can share is be quick on your feet, be willing to fail, because it's not failures if you don't look at it that way. And at the end of the day, instead of us seeing things as W's or L's, what if we erase the L and just make them teeny tiny little cursive W's? Maybe they weren't the biggest win. Maybe they weren't the biggest success or the biggest payday. But if you learn something from that, it's still positive. Sure, is it maybe time that's gone or whatever else? But don't think about it as, oh, no, that's time I'll never get back, because you're focused on the past. Take it as a tiny little cursive W. It's not the biggest W. It doesn't feel like a big W, but it's a tiny little cursive W. And that way, like, that perspective can just shift. There are still a million opportunities every second of every day to do something bigger and better. So I think being quick on your feet and looking at life that way is the biggest suggestion I can give.
That's really good, man. That's actually awesome. I want to shift into some rapid fire questions before we
bring it on.
All right.
Anxiety.
These are the rapid fires. These are the quick. These don't get a lot of thought. I want to hear them straight from your heart. All right. Desert Island. I want top 3 movies that you take on your desert island. These are not your favorites. These are the ones you're going to have to watch for the next 10 years while you're on the island.
Rest of your days.
Oh, man. Okay. No Way Home. Spider-Man, No Way Home. Avengers Endgame. And then I'll do a non-superhero one. Intouchables. It was the movie. It was originally a French movie that there was then American remake of it with Kevin Hart and Kevin Spacey.
The two Kevins.
I think so. Who was the guy from what was again, me and names are terrible. The TV show that
it's not Kevin Spacey. No. It's you're talking about the remake was it was
Francois. Oh wait, no, is that the French one?
No, you're talking about the guy
French
from
one.
Bad.
But I would take the French one.
Yeah.
Because after watching the French one, watching the American one, I was like, it's a little bit watered down American, but I think the French one was. It was like called the Intouchables or the Untouchables or something like that.
It's Intouchables. They made a remake and it had the guy from Breaking Bad.
Yes.
And him
and it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Just after watching the French one, you're just like, okay, it's a remake.
Yeah.
Oh, was the Upside the American one?
Yes. Yes.
Bryan Cranston.
There it is.
Bryan Cranston. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So those are 3 good movies. Okay. 3 good movies.
2 superheroes, 1 very awesome, good message, real one.
Okay. You're going to get the opportunity to play whatever superhero you want. Who are you playing?
Uh-oh.
You got DC and Marvel. They've come to you.
For the longest time, we were like Superboy and...
Yeah, Superboy with Chief.
Because you had Chief.
We even talk about Chief.
Oh, Chiefy.
So if it was DC, because Superboy has not been portrayed in the film franchise yet, I would say Superboy. Yeah. This is in hopes that he has multiple movie appearances. If it was Marvel, Nightcrawler.
Oh, really? Nightcrawler.
And I say Nightcrawler because he's only been shown once.
Yeah.
I think there's so much they can do with him that they have not done yet.
Yeah.
And I think he's been one of my favorite, because Spider-Man is not underrated. People know Spider-Man. You say Spider-Man, he is a popular name. Nightcrawler, a lot of people are like, who? Or they think of the movie Nightcrawler that was like the night driving movie with Ryan Gosling or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, the Marvel superhero Nightcrawler. Yeah. I read all the comics recently and I'm just like, yeah, this guy needs so much more love. He has such a cool backstory. Yes. He's a teleporter. Like it just goes so deep. And he's demon spawn in a way, but he also fights with his faith. And so in the comics, Nightcrawler actually helps fight demons, like send them back to hell because they're not meant to be here. And literally, like, he has 2 different swords, and it's just amazing.
Nightcrawler in the comics is so much more insane than they actually ever made him in the shows. Yeah, the movies. It was always crazy to me. The cartoon was doing a really good job. Not the old one, but the newer, the like mid 2000s animated one was doing a really good job, and it got canceled. And I was like really excited for what they were doing. Nightcrawler.
If I had an opportunity to play Nightcrawler or audition, and I knew it was like a couple months away, I would learn German every day for the next until the audition came, because his first language is German.
Oh,
I would learn German. I would learn the accent. I know that I'd barely have to speak German in the movie, but I would know enough that as soon as they gave me the script, whatever parts that were in German, I would know what they meant and know how to say them.
I got it.
All right. What about supervillain? What supervillain are you playing?
Oh, you know what? I would love to play Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah.
When it comes to Marvel, I know that they are doing a version of Kraven coming up, I guess.
Yeah, but Sony, so we never know what that's going to be like.
Yeah. So I would love to do Kraven. And I'm not talking anti-heroes. I'm talking villains.
Yeah.
Because if it was anti-heroes, it'd have to be. If it was anti-heroes, I would love to do, like, if it was DC, I'd love to do a Lucifer. If it was Marvel, I'd love to do. I mean, they've already done Venom, and Venom. His human is not meant to be dark haired. He's meant to be blonde, Eddie Brock. But yeah, Kraven the Hunter hasn't really been done yet in live action. I think that'd be a really, really cool character to play, especially with my freaking hair and beard set up right now.
Okay. You're now no longer playing any characters. You're an old man. You're a director. You've traded in the acting for the directing chair, and you are casting a movie about your life. Who are you getting to play? You, your sister, your brother, and your parents?
Loaded question.
How dare you ask me the questions that required remembering names?
Oh gosh. I didn't even think that through.
Playing me.
We can just do you and your siblings. We'll keep it easier for you.
That'll be great. You know what though? I would have Hugh Jackman play my dad.
You'd have Hugh Jackman play your dad. I love
Absolutely.
it. I can see it.
I can see that. Solid
who would I
Darby
want?
Senior.
He could play my dad. Who would play mom? For some reason, I'm better with like older actors' names. I feel like. Who's the lady from The Blind Side?
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock, I think, would be a good mom.
Sandra Bullock.
I agree.
She's done obviously a good Southern before, so that would match.
Yeah, I agree.
So you got Sandra Bullock.
That would be good.
And you got Sandra Bullock and Hugh Jackman. All right, who's your brother? Darby's going to judge you for this one, so.
I know, but I'm trying to think of somebody who's very funny, who's very sporty and athletic.
Nah, they're
And
actors.
who's like a brunette as well.
Hair can be dyed.
Yeah, hair can be dyed. They can fake being athletic.
Yeah.
That's what training's for.
So here's the question: Are we talking as like casting as our adult selves or as our younger selves? Because I don't know any like
choose to tell the story. You can tell whatever you
just
want
to tell
be.
the
Adult
story.
selves is fine. Yeah, if you want it to be adult selves, then they're adult selves. If you have a child actor and you want to cast the young selves, you can do that too. It's whatever you want. You're the director, man.
I know. It'd be kind of funny. The kid who played the bad king in like the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones, the blonde kid.
Oh, you want to? Oh, wow!
Oh.
You really went there with your brother's.
I'd
casting.
want him to play like high school Darby.
Sold.
Because I think he could definitely do like the athletic stuff, but he definitely gave off that energy of. Now Darby was never a dick or anything, or he wasn't ever mean.
He was never a jerk.
No, we had friction, but he would play a good, witty part of the popular group, but would come home and fit in with the family kind of character. I think he would do that. And Darby was blonde growing up before he became full brunette.
Really?
So yeah, Darby Kendall, and I was like a light brown when I was a young child.
Was Kendall?
Kendall was very blonde, very dirty blonde.
You're talking about Jack Gleason, who played Joffrey. Yes. So
God, for
wild,
me,
man. You got you and your sister still.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of actors that I would consider similar to myself. Maybe a younger Henry Cavill, but even then I'm hesitant because I would need an actor that went through like a transformation at some point in their lives. And I feel like Henry Cavill has always been this stoic, statuesque man.
Yeah, but he's super nerdy and I love him.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why I almost say Henry Cavill, because he's super nerdy. And I think he could portray the hesitant, not as outgoing. I'm super outgoing now, but I had to kind of break that bubble. So younger Henry Cavill, I would check that. And then for my sister,
no, Henry Cavill was a goober.
Yeah, Henry Cavill, he loves like
super nerd. I love it.
He's awesome.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
and then for Kendall,
I can also see your brother playing as Chris Pratt. I could just
Chris Pratt.
Yeah. Yes.
It's an absolute
recast.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Chris Pratt. Put Chris Pratt in there.
Let's do Chris Pratt. Yeah, because he's a goober too.
Yeah. And then for Kendall, who would I want to play Kendall?
It's got to be somebody who's like also kind of goobery fun.
I'm trying to think of someone who's like musical, but has been in comedy stuff as well.
Musical that's been in comedy stuff as well. That would be like
my brain keeps going to Lady Gaga, but I don't think that fits.
What would Kristen Bell work?
Kristen Bell,
yes.
Kendrick.
Yeah.
No, Anna Kendrick, 1,000% is who I would have.
Okay.
Kendall.
Yeah. That's good. That checks out.
All right.
She can belt a tune and be silly.
All right. So we have created the Jennings Brower movie, and it is Hugh Jackman, Sandra Bullock, Chris Pratt, Kristen Bell, and
Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick.
Anna Kendrick and
Henry Cavill.
And Henry Cavill. It's an all-star cast.
What a family.
Honestly.
Or Baby Ryan Reynolds could play me either. Either one is fine.
Honestly, it is an incredible casting. Jennings, thanks for joining us. We could probably talk a ton. We'll have to have you back on to keep going with
honestly, yes.
Tell the audience, if they haven't already seen you on their trending page, where can they find you? What can they subscribe to? Give us all the breakdown.
So if you guys want to get to know me for as long as these two have, my YouTube channel has vlogs since I was 17 years old. Everything is under Jennings Brower. YouTube, you can find Jennings Brower vlogs, Jennings Brower shorts, Jennings Brower streams. Twitch, Jennings Brower, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Jennings Brower. Come hang out. IMDb, if you guys are directors out there and need some talent. Hello.
Yes. He's super talented, great actor, an awesome guy, and a great friend.
Yeah.
Jennings, thanks for coming on.
Thanks
for talking to us. I think you got some great advice in here and you've helped a lot of people. And we are excited to see you in a big screen coming soon.
God's got a plan and I trust it.
He's flourishing, folks.
Awesome.
Facts.
Thanks for guys. Thanks for joining us on this 6th episode. Be sure to check out the 626 Instagram and continue to see some more posts. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes.
Please.
Bye.
Do it. All the 5 stars.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast. If you enjoy the 626 podcast, the best thing you can do for us is to share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review. It helps us a lot to get discovered.
And be sure to check us out on Instagram at 626podcast.